I just think it's funny that the top G is a fanboy. And he runs with this whole thing like, what color is your Bugatti?
Jake Paul fired back at Andrew Tate's callout with a predictably over-the-top monologue. True to form, Jake delivered an ego-fueled rant, boasting loudly and exuding overconfidence. Known for cherry-picking opponents to pad his record, Jake now claims he can defeat Andrew Tate, a four-time kickboxing world champion with a proven fight history. It's classic Jake. All talk, little substance, and completely out of touch with the reality of facing a legitimate fight.
Endless videos supporting me, laughing about me, saying how funny I was. I'll fight him for free.
Jake Paul's track record of overhyped fights often ends in mediocrity or outright embarrassment. Let's not forget the cringe-worthy, scripted face-off with Mike Tyson that still somehow made headlines. Known more for dodging real challenges than landing punches, Jake is now stepping up to Andrew Tate, not with skill, but with his signature loudmouth bravado. It's a battle of trash talk versus talent, and Jake, true to form, seems destined to be in way over his head.
I don't think he ever gets into the ring and risks his alpha male appearance to fight me or Logan. Andrew Tate, you're scared to get in the ring with one of us.
Jake Paul, just the name is enough to unsettle anyone who values integrity in sports, or frankly, sanity itself. This self-proclaimed problem child has somehow persuaded a chunk of the internet that his glorified TikTok-level boxing antics qualify him as a legitimate athlete. Now, he's set his sights on Andrew Tate, the internet's embodiment of cigars, Bugattis, and antiquated alpha male sermons. It's a clash of egos so oversized they might warrant their own ZIP codes. The stage is set for a spectacle of absurdity. Should we dive into this chaotic collision?
But what I'm saying is that Andrew, if my brother doesn't fuck you up, I will. And it has to go down.
Andrew Tate, a four-time legitimate kickboxing world champion, has called out Jake Paul for a fight. And why wouldn't he? Jake's boxing career resembles a bad reality TV show where retired MMA fighters and washed-up athletes take turns losing to him for a paycheck. But here's the twist. Tate has real combat credentials minus 76 wins, not whatever bargain bin victory lap Jake's been running. Tate didn't just call Jake out. He went straight for the jugular, mocking Jake's courage and thinly veiled stunts for relevance. Coming from a guy who built his empire on Bugattis and Hustler University sermons, that's saying something. Jake's response, predictable. He scurried to his podcast, BS with Jake Paul, arguably the most accurate title he's ever coined, to puff his chest and posture like a middle schooler venting on Twitter after losing a dodgeball game. Andrew Tate, you're scared to get into the ring with one of us, Jake declared, dripping with irony. Jake calling anyone scared is comedy gold. This is the same guy who spent more time dodging Tommy Fury than actually training for a legitimate fight. He's the human embodiment of the pot calling the kettle black, if the pot was also trying to sell you overpriced merch while yelling into a microphone. Tate versus Jake promises less of a fight and more of a circus, starring egos too big for any arena. Let the spectacle begin.
But what I'm saying is that Andrew, if my brother doesn't fuck you up, I will. And it has to go down.
Then there's Jake Paul's theory on why Andrew Tate won't fight him. According to Jake, Tate is afraid of tarnishing his alpha male image. Rich, coming from someone whose entire career revolves around cherry-picking opponents who either have no business boxing or are far past their prime. Jake's idea of bravery is landing punches on guys who should be enjoying retirement, all while pretending to be the future of the sport. Still, let's give Jake half a point for briefly attempting to sound reasonable. Between the self-congratulations and macho posturing, he managed to support the idea that Andrew Tate shouldn't be banned from social media. Free speech is important, he says, a noble sentiment until you recall it's coming from a guy who uses his platform to hurl insults at anyone questioning his inflated sense of greatness. Jake Paul championing free speech feels about as credible as a used car salesman preaching honesty. Hard to take seriously when the persona is built on manipulation and bravado.
Fight, you want to send a contract, send one to me. I will take a few weeks break from living my retired life to kick the living fuck out of a fucking goofy, fucking entitled dickhead like you.
While Jake Paul keeps running his mouth, let's not ignore the circus he's already juggling. There's KSI, his eternal rival in a feud that spanned years, yet hasn't resulted in an actual fight. Then there's Tommy Fury, whose match with Jake has been canceled so many times it feels like a poorly written soap opera. Visa issues, scheduling conflicts, or Jake's uncanny knack for turning every situation into melodrama. Take your pick. By now, Jake dodging credible opponents isn't a rumor. It's practically his trademark. Speaking of Brits, I had a call with Tommy Fury. They're saying we're going to fight in February, Jake told his co-host. I think he actually can't leave the UK, so if I fight him, it's over there. His co-host, ever the skeptic, pointed out that Tommy has a history of last-minute withdrawals, questioning whether this matchup would even happen. Parts of it are shady, Jake admitted. I don't think we're getting the full truth, but it's a great matchup, and I really want to knock him out. Enter Andrew Tate, offering Jake a golden chance to prove he can go toe-to-toe with someone who has real combat credentials. But what does Jake do? He postures. He talks big. And as usual, the question looms, will he actually step into the ring? Let's be honest, probably not. Jake's career isn't built on challenges. It's built on theatrics. He doesn't want to fight Tate. He wants to milk the drama for clicks, views, and another wave of gullible fans who confuse his trash talk with actual talent.
Look at my parents. Mama's on the way no more. Hey, she get me out of life, bro.
Jake Paul wanting to fight Canelo Alvarez is like a toddler challenging Usain Bolt to a sprint. Embarrassing, delusional, and undeniably hilarious. This is the same Jake Paul who defeated Anderson Silva in October 2022. A 47-year-old MMA legend well past his boxing prime. Does that stop Jake? Of course not. In his mind, this single victory has magically elevated him to a level worthy of stepping into the ring with one of the greatest pound-for-pound boxers in history. Jake doesn't just aim to prove himself. He wants to rewrite reality, conveniently ignoring that his so-called knockout record is about as legitimate as a stage prank video. And just when you think his antics couldn't escalate, he finds himself in deeper trouble. This time, it's Eddie Hearn, heavyweight boxing promoter, who's had enough of Jake's nonsense. Jake accused Hearn's Matchroom Boxing of paying off judges for favorable scorecards. The result? A $100 million lawsuit. But does Jake backtrack or stay quiet? Not a chance. Instead, he promises to debunk the allegations on episode 8 of his podcast, because clearly, a YouTuber known for viral pranks and scripted drama is just the authority we need to expose corruption in professional boxing. Sure, Jake, we'll wait for that groundbreaking expose. Meanwhile, Jake's feud with Tommy Fury drags on like an endless soap opera. These two were supposed to fight at the end of 2021, then again in 2022. But Tommy always had a convenient excuse: visa issues, injuries, or maybe just a gut feeling that losing to Jake would be career suicide. Naturally, Jake has used every delay to trash Tommy on social media, calling him a coward and declaring his readiness to fight in the UK in 2023. But considering Jake's stellar record of following through on fights, even if this matchup happens, a big if, it'll likely be another overhyped spectacle, leaving fans questioning why they tuned in. And then there's the wild card, Andrew Tate. A fight between Jake Paul and Tate could actually be interesting, if only for the sheer chaos. Tate, with his 76 professional kickboxing wins, brings real combat experience, unlike Jake's reality show opponents. Tate is polarizing, sure, but he knows how to fight. Jake, on the other hand, is the poster boy for delusions of grandeur. Watching him step into the ring with Tate would be like watching a YouTuber challenge a Navy SEAL to a push-up contest. Painful, but impossible to look away from.